What does the media get most wrong, Ellen Wald, about the Arab Peninsula from the Persian Gulf over to the Red Sea?
I think the media, I would say that the most common misperception is that everything is defined by the Sunni Shia conflict. I think that that's a very simplistic way to look at it. There's a lot going on, there's a lot going on between different, sects, Islamic sects that kind of, it really transcends it. On the other hand, I would say that the one thing that has really stood out for me in conversations with people in the Gulf right now is that at least the people, are fairly united in their sentiment against Iran, that a lot of the attacks that Iran has leveled against these countries in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, in Kuwait have really kind of solidified at least popular sentiment against Iran, and that they are potentially much more united in efforts to fight Iran than is, I think, being really portrayed in the United States in the media and from think tanks at this point.
Ellen, if I were an insurer whose job it is to insure these tankers, I think my base case today has to be, as long as this leadership is still in position of power in Iran, the strait will never be open. Is that a fair assumption?
That's what I would advise. If I was an insurer, I would not be insuring these ships. I think you're taking an absolutely massive risk if you are going to, provide insurance for a ship that's transiting. I really think right now we are at basically kind of a status quo kind of standstill impasse. Iran is not going to give up any way to control the strait unless something really, really shifts internally or with their firepower ability. They're not going to give it up. And the United States seems like it's not going to give up its position either. So either we have to just dig in here for the long haul until something changes economically on either side, or we have to, change something militarily. And but otherwise, we're kind of stuck. This is going to become a situation of attrition, and the world may have to adjust to this new normal.
But if I'm Saudi Arabia, not to mention all the other countries in that region, can I live with that? Can I live with that reality that the strait is closed? I would like to think those neighbors could exert some type of pressure on Iran.
I think that they absolutely do have that ability. I think that the pressure they can exert is really finding the workarounds. And it's an interesting situation because Saudi Arabia is actually, differently positioned, I would say, than, say, Kuwait or Iraq or Bahrain or Qatar or even the UAE, because it has a different geography. It has access to the Red Sea, and it's been using that, and it can continue to use that access to its advantage. Now, that has all come into question now that we're getting other actors and in other geographic regions involved. The Houthis getting involved in the Red Sea
Right.
absolutely threatens that. And then we have militias, apparently Iranian-backed militias in Iraq that are now threatening ports in the Mediterranean. And so that definitely, kind of enlarges
Right.
the regional aspect of this conflict.
Okay, here's why you watch Bloomberg surveillance, folks, and we're thrilled to do this. Our team, it wasn't Eric Marlowe, it was one of the interns.
Oh, was it? Okay.
They put
Good.
Ellen Wald back to back with Leslie Vinjamuri. It's too much, folks. Ellen Wald, senior fellow of the Atlantic Council, and joining us now, dropping in with Ellen Wald. It's a panel, folks, a surveillance Bloomberg panel. Leslie Vinjamuri, Chicago Council on Global Affairs. Ellen Wald, explain to Dr. Vinjamuri the relationship of the tribes of the Arab world. Does Saudi get along with the UAE? Does the UAE get along with Bahrain? Does Bahrain get along with Kuwait, etc.? Ellen, discuss that.
So they definitely do get along, but it's not like they're all just brothers here. They're definitely different sects, and they've definitely taken different approaches in particularly in modern times. But there's absolutely, you could say, kind of long-seated bad blood in some respects. One
Right.
particularly fascinating part, it has to do with Jordan. Okay, Jordan is actually, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. That comes from a family that the Saudi king, the original king, Abdulaziz ibn Saud, he actually kicked out the ancestor of the current king of Jordan from Mecca
Now, wait
to
a
take
minute.
over Saudi Arabia.
We're going to stop the
So-
show. Ellen, in Lawrence of Arabia, was the Hashemite king that went to Jordan, were their great-grandfather, was that played by Anthony Quinn?
I believe so.
You believe so? I nailed that. Leslie's impressed. Leslie Vinjamuri helps us out with Ellen Wald this morning. Leslie's been just on fire with discussion at Chicago Council on Global Affairs, all of her work previously at Chatham House. Leslie, the question every listener wants to know, including Ellen Wald, how do we extricate ourselves from this mess?
If you mean the United States, I think the answer is we don't. We started, it's a little bit of the Pottery Barn rule, Tom. You break it, you own it, you have to fix it. President Trump, I'm sure, and many Americans would like nothing more, quite frankly, than to return to the pre-late Feb status quo. But I think we all know at this point it's not on offer. So this is a manage it, try to get things into a stable position. And I think from the U.S. administration perspective, sooner rather than later, and certainly sooner than the early November midterm elections. But there's no sign right now of any plan coming into place that brings that stability. The U.S. is kind of doubling down on sanctions, force, and Iran has demonstrated that it is in it to win it. It can bear those costs. It has that leverage over the strait, and it doesn't seem to be flinching. So at the moment, again, we're seeing escalation, tit for tat, and the few proposals on the table don't seem to be getting the kind of traction that we need to see to get back to some sort of stability.
Leslie, with a little bit of time here that we've had to kind of study this last few months, how did we misread this so terribly wrong?
I would ask, who is the we here? I think if you go back to the very deep bench of U.S. Geopolitical experts, Middle East experts, folks who've worked in the national security and intelligence agencies for decades, they've played out this scenario of Iran weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz. They understood the very disproportionate power advantage, the asymmetric leverage that was possible. And I think, we're sort of telling the same story that we've been telling for a while. Originally, it looked like the United States was being pulled in by Israel, Trump by Netanyahu, and that equation has changed. That's one of the more surprising things that has come out of the last few months, that Donald Trump no longer seems to be playing along with that playbook, but now he has his own considerations and concerns.
Ellen, well, brief Leslie Vinjamuri and all of us here on a royal family that goes back to 1727. Those of us, Leslie and you are too young to remember this, but I remember Faisal clearly, hugely dominant in the minds of Americans coming out of World War II, Jurgen and the prize and all that. Brief us now on the royal family of Saudi Arabia. How stable is it? How dominant are they in the discussion?
I would say that the Saudi royal family is quite stable. I don't think we're concerned really about any destabilization in terms of the leadership there. But it is interesting to see, as the conflict has gone on, that they really have not been the most vocal, at least publicly, in terms of the Gulf states. I mean, I think we've seen the UAE maybe taking much more of a vocal stand on certain issues, particularly concerning the fact that free passage through the Strait of Hormuz is not negotiable for them. I mean, they've been the ones really taking this stand, though Saudi has also borne the brunt of a lot of the damage. Also, obviously, Kuwait and Bahrain have too, but they do seem to be pretty resolute in their, opposition. And I don't think that we're really concerned about any kind of destabilizing measures taking place at least in Saudi Arabia.
Leslie, one of the, I think, objectives of the administration for the initial attack on Iran was regime change and granted, there are different players now leading Iran, but they are still theocrats. Is there any reason to believe that with continued military action on the part of the U.S. that the pressure would be so great that there may be an uprising of the people to change the government? How do we look at that these days?
I mean, I see no evidence of that. And my reading of those who have been following this for a very long time is that they see no evidence of that. It is it is not really in America's gift. I think, unfortunately, coming out of the removal of Maduro, Venezuela's leader, that President Trump perhaps was kind of leaning into America's unwielding power. And, power is very contextual.
Right.
And so we haven't seen that delivered in this case. But I think we're long past the moment where we believe that this is going to lead to regime change. At best, we're hoping for, getting into a direction which can lead to some sort of stability over the strait. I even think the question of getting to a nuclear deal is, very far away at this point in time.
Leslie, help us with how we've shattered our relationships. I mean, you were at Chatham House and now doing this wonderful work in Chicago. Like Britain, can Britain show up along the Persian Gulf like they did in 1809, 1810? Or we just shattered the West in the Arab world?
Well, first of all, the West was already dividing internally. First thing first, Tom, you know it better than anyone. The UK, also the United States, but not nearly as much, has had its own domestic internal problems. And, the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has got to be very focused internally on, as Gillian Tett told me earlier this week, growth, growth, and growth, top three priorities. So the West has a lot of internal economic problems, but that division has been a long time coming. Europe is leaning in not to the Gulf. It's leaning into, what it perceives to be its number one security threat, which is coming from Russia and from Putin. And Donald Trump has been back and forth on that one.
I want to do one final question to both of you. This has been so special, folks. Leslie Vinjamuri and Ellen Wald with us. Ellen, let me start with you. Same question then to Leslie. We seem to have a new diplomacy out of the State Department, running out of the Oval Office in the White House. Ellen, how is our diplomacy perceived in the world of your book, Saudi Inc.?
I would say there's probably a lot of confusion because it does seem like there's one kind of diplomacy maybe coming out of the State Department and another kind coming out of the White House. And I think for states in the Gulf who are looking at for security, this is a really volatile thing and is probably a bit concerning.
Leslie, along that line, can we repair our shattered diplomacy?
Not under this administration, I don't feel, unfortunately. We're not seeing the strategy. We don't see quite frankly, the interest in doing that. If anything, the current administration is aiming to do exactly the opposite, to disrupt America's most, recent longstanding alliances, to really rethink how they do diplomacy.
Right.
That's just simply not the goal. It's not the project. So I don't see it happening anytime soon.
You two have made a Friday morning in the summer special. I mean, that's a world-class panel, Paul.